Feeling down? It could be what you're eating or not doing. Today, we'll talk about how to improve your mental health through health on the Functional Fitness and Nutrition Podcast with Chronology.
You're listening to Studio 809 Podcast. This is what community sounds like.
Welcome to the Functional Fitness and Nutrition Podcast with Chronology on Studio 809. I'm Stevie.
And I'm Will.
And we're your co-hosts and experts behind Chronology Functional Fitness and Nutrition. Chronology is a wellness company focusing on functional health and anti-aging through personal training, nutrition counseling, and a holistic approach to life. You can find us online at chronologyfit.com.
That's Chronology with a K.
So today we are talking about mental health.
Which is very important.
And something we have learned a lot about on both a personal and professional level.
Yeah, and I think people who do suffer from whatever form of mental illness they may have may feel alone, but trust me, there's a lot of us out here, so you're not alone. So let's start by addressing what is mental health. What are we talking about when we talk about ill mental health? So we're talking about depression, right? Anxiety. It could be PTSD. It could be BPD, like I have, or it could be
I also want to talk
aging.
about cognitive decline, dementia. That's all
so
mental
all
health.
of that is included in the mental health. So,
yeah, and so there's things that you can do on your own, or with the help of someone. Either you hire them, or you get support from a friend or family member. There's things you can do to improve your mental health, both lifting depression, or some of those other things Will mentioned, or making sure that you stave off cognitive decline, keeping your brain sharp as you age. And sometimes depression comes with cognitive decline too,
right?
Just from getting older. And I want to say we are not saying that you should not take medications if you need them.
Not at all.
I think they can be a good tool. I don't think they're the end all be all. I think if you need to use that tool and you use other tools, such as the things we're going to talk about today, therapy, things like that, I think they can all be tools in your toolbox. Some you may need more than others. Some you might use them for a short amount of time, such as a medication, while sometimes people need medication to be able to make changes and use the other tools. And that's okay.
So I can speak from experience, and I'm very open. I'm pretty open about most of my life. I will never be 100% open about my life because it's my life.
Well, nobody should be.
And I think 20% you should keep to yourself. So, but the 80% that I don't involves my struggles with mental health, depression, anxiety. I also suffer from PTSD, BPD, and that comes a lot of times all together at one time. So what have I found over the course of all these years that I've been struggling? I have to take some medication, not much. It's not a fix. It doesn't cure me, but it helps me so that I can help myself. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think, and
so it's like you said, the tool in the toolbox.
Yeah, and adjusting your medication while you go through therapy.
Which is what I was going to say next. I started to go to therapy, which is the next step because you want to get rid of whatever trauma is holding you back in life. So you have to be brave enough to take that step to go to that too.
And sometimes you need medication to be able to do that.
Yes.
And that's okay.
That's fine. That goes with it too. But you also have to do other things
that are going to help. And, I think that the goal should be for someone who's able, not everyone will be able,
right,
to eventually not need medication.
Right.
Use it as a tool to be able to work through therapy or make some changes or do whatever you have to do. Because I think there's, and I know we're talking a lot about depression and mental illness first, and we'll get into cognitive decline. Yeah. But this kind of has to do with cognitive decline too. There's different kinds of depression. There's, situational. Your dog died, you're depressed,
right,
or something like that. And there can be what they call chemical.
Yes.
But a lot of times when they say, oh, you have a chemical imbalance in your brain and you need to take an antidepressant, unless you're like diagnosed with something like bipolar disorder, if it's just depression, a lot of times that depression is a symptom of something else. And it could be situational, you need therapy,
right.
or it could be a side effect of something that you need to be diagnosed with, like
Correct.
bipolar or PTSD.
Right.
Or it could be a side effect of things that you have, like diet and exercise and something in your life, some kind of
Things you
lifestyle
do.
thing, some kind of allergy. It
Yeah.
could be a symptom of an allergy.
Yes.
So,
People do not investigate deep
Yeah.
enough before they go to
Yeah.
the doctor and get. And by the way, I'm not going to mention any pill by name, but if you do your research about these depression medications, nowhere in any of the literature does it say this helps with depression. It always says
may
this
help.
may, because it's a guessing game
Yeah.
for them. A few people it works for, some people it doesn't. Other people go crazy on it. Some people it improve
Yeah.
beyond belief. But
Yeah,
so
there's still. I have a friend who's a doctor, and she says that they're still trying to figure out mental health.
yeah.
It's not as cut and dry as cardiovascular.
Look at the
or-
brain. It's a puzzle.
But since we are talking about the brain, I do want to say this: we need to get rid of the stigma of
Oh,
mental
yeah.
illness and
Yes.
stop mistreating people. Oh, they're off their meds, or this person's
Definitely.
got mental illness, because the brain is an organ just like the pancreas and the heart.
Yep.
So to me, if you have some kind of mental illness, that is no different than you having heart disease,
Right.
diabetes. It's just a
It's your
different
health.
body organ.
Yep.
So we need to get rid of stigma. We need to stop judging people
Definitely.
anymore. You wouldn't, someone who had cancer or diabetes,
Yeah.
you wouldn't mistreat them
Yeah.
and think they're weird because they
Yeah.
have it. We need to stop doing it with
Yeah,
mental
because
health.
for a long time in my life, I hid mine behind drugs and alcohol and joking about other people who have mental illness. That's how I coped, while the whole time I was going through it. So that's why I'm open about it now, because that's the only way to heal.
Yeah, and help others.
Yeah.
So, as I said, you need to find out, go ahead and get the help,
Yeah.
but then find out why. What's the cause? What's
Yeah.
the root cause of the reason I feel the way I feel? Do I have a true mental illness
There's a reason.
that can be fixed either through medication or therapy?
Yep.
Is it a side effect of something else?
Stuck trauma.
So medication can be a tool, but you've got to do these other things. And I have some clients that are actually on psychotropic meds and antidepressants, and they're still depressed.
yeah.
And it's because they're not using any other tools.
Right.
So it has to be a multifaceted approach.
It has to be.
And even if it's whether it's a chemical imbalance or situational, it doesn't matter. You have to do the things that we're about to tell you about.
So, yeah, before you get into your thing, all of the scholarly literature that I have been through said the exact same thing that you just said, that whether it's clinical, whether it's, situational, the things that we're about to tell you, they helped in these tests, in these group tests that they did. It helped. So,
If nothing else, it can help your medication work better.
yeah, most definitely. It can help you overcome some things. Mm-hmm. And maybe there's a couple of roadblocks, even though you're in the therapy and you are taking the medicine. Maybe there's a roadblock. This will be able to get you over it. Let's go with diet.
You want to talk nutrition first?
Yes.
Okay.
The reason why it's important, because people put stuff in their mouth without even considering it. It's just like a second thought. Like,
Yeah.
you run by, grab it, eat it, boom,
Yeah.
done. Oh, I ate.
Yeah.
What did you eat?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
And was
it's
it
very
food?
important. Yeah. You
Because
better hope it
a
was.
lot of stuff out there that people are digesting and putting in their mouths are not what I would consider food.
I don't think they
No.
are considered food by the definition.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I'm not, I think most of you know that I'm not somebody who says you must eat perfect all the time.
Nope.
You know,
80-20.
but yeah, 80% of the time you should do as best as you can, and 20% of the time don't worry about it. But 99% of the time, at least make sure it's real food. You know, on the occasion where you're on a road trip and there's some food that you wouldn't normally eat, but it's the only thing around, and you're hungry, eat it. Don't worry about it. If you give your body, if you do the best you can, you avoid what you can, and you give your body the things it needs to mitigate any damage from what you can avoid, you'll be fine. So
still choose wisely.
Yeah,
I mean,
choose wisely when you can.
There's a lot of fast food places that make you sick.
So I want to start with that.
Don't do it.
Junk food, fast food, garbage. That's a big one that does cause depression. It will. You had a coworker once that I believe was so depressed.
Yes.
And she ate fast food 3 times a day.
Yes. The day would start with one of those big old ice creamy looking things. I know it's not ice cream, but you know what I mean.
That's not coffee.
It's got the sprinkles and it's got the cream
dessert
on top, and it would start with that. And she was only 10 things. Took like 10 pills.
10 different kinds of medication.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't help. Nope.
And then she'd have,
panic attacks and craziness, and
But I mean, like, what was the rest of her diet like, that, as far as you know?
I don't want to name any kind of places, but any kind of fast food you could think of would come that was in 20 block kind of, radius to our place where we worked. And it was anything from hamburgers to like Indian food, but the fast food kind of Indian food. So you can't say, oh, well, I had rice.
Yeah.
I had some vegetables.
And
with
of course, when you work in an office, there's always donuts or
Yeah.
somebody's birthday cake
Yeah, somebody had
or a
an
vending
occasion,
machine.
or somebody just felt like bacon last night. So here we are.
Which it's okay every now and then,
But it's been proven that if you eat a ton of sugar all at one time, you're going to crash, which makes you feel depressed.
So,
boom.
So the junk in and of itself is not good because it's only half food, in my opinion. I mean, if you can't buy the ingredients that they use in all their stuff to make it yourself, and you can't pronounce it, and your grandmother or great grandmother wouldn't recognize it
That's
as
very
food,
good. I like
you
that.
shouldn't be eating it. I like to tell clients too, if it ate a plant or came from a plant, I mean, if it ate a plant or is a plant, eat it. If it was made in a plant,
Don't eat it.
don't eat it.
Yeah.
So 2 definitions of the word plant there. But so when you're eating, fast food is hyper palatable. So it's excess sugar, salt, and fat, because then you're going to develop a taste for it.
Right.
And then something that's not hyper palatable isn't going to taste good to you. So if you're used to eating cheeseburgers every single day for lunch, and one day you decide to have a salad, that salad's not going to taste good.
Right.
Unless you load it with bacon and cheese and ranch dressing. Or you got it from the fast food place, then you might like it. But so these hyper palatable foods, and corporations know this.
Mm-hmm.
They put things in the food
I know.
to make you want it more. There's a particular fast food place that actually has sugar on its French fries. It's
I think
not
they probably all do that now.
Yeah, it's not enough for you to be, oh, these taste sweet, but it's enough to addict you. And sugar is a drug. So there's a lot of other crap in junk food that can cause depression, but we're going to talk specifically about sugar for a minute. They have done the studies, they have done MRIs of the brain, and it's been proven that sugar lights up more parts of your brain than cocaine. So what happens when you've metabolized the sugar and it's out of your brain? You crash and you want more sugar. Ever heard of the 2 p.m. slump?
Yeah.
Yeah, you had this junk food lunch, and then right around 2 o'clock, you start slumping. Oh man, I have no energy. I got to get a soda. I got to get a candy bar. You're going over to that vending machine, and that's what picks you up to get through until dinner.
People actually begin to feel down.
Yeah, you will feel depressed. You won't
Not
recognize
like
it as
kill
depression.
yourself depression, but
Right,
it'll
but
be
moody.
You'll feel it coming on. You feel kind of like, oh, I don't want to do anything anymore.
Yeah, I don't feel like working anymore. I can't wait till 5 o'clock.
Yeah, this day sucks.
You'll be moody. You'll be tired. You won't have any energy.
Yeah.
You feel like taking a nap.
Yeah,
But then you go get that candy bar
and it's good.
and you perk up. But then what happens around 5 o'clock when you get off work? You have another crash.
And you have a donut.
Yeah, or you go through the drive-thru on the way home.
Yeah.
And then you're perked up until it's time to go to bed.
And you scream at your husband. And he's like, what the hell's your problem?
You have
and you're
trouble
like, I eat
sleeping.
fast food all day.
And then you have trouble sleeping, which also leads to causing things like depression. So I'm not saying to never, ever, ever, ever eat sugar. Okay. If it's your birthday, have some birthday cake. Try to have homemade birthday cake. But try to eat less of it. Try not to, try to recognize if you have that relationship with sugar where you're down and it perks you up. Do you have that addiction? Do you get those cravings? If you do, then it could be affecting your mental health, and it definitely will affect cognitive function as you get older, whether you're depressed or not. They are now starting to call Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes because it's been shown that there's a connection between sugar and the amyloid plaques in the brain that cause Alzheimer's disease.
And people are getting way younger. I mean, way younger.
Yes.
I'm talking about in their 60s.
Alzheimer's
way
and
younger.
regular dementia.
Like in their 60s is way younger than when we were kids and people were getting that in their 80s and their late 80s.
So as you can imagine, if you are in this vicious cycle of sugar addiction, and you're depressed or life's just not that good, until right after you've eaten the sugar, of course. So not only are you suffering with this mental state for your life, your brain isn't going to stay as sharp for as long as you get older, and it's going to get worse. So not only are you giving it all the sugar and damaging your brain, but depression in and of itself is not good for your brain either.
Right.
Another one would be alcohol. There is a connection between sugar and alcohol.
Is sugar.
It is sugar. But it's also
Turns to
poison.
sugar.
It turns to sugar, but it's also poison. It does kill brain cells.
Definitely.
Sometimes people are having mental illness and, what do they say? I need a drink. Because
they think
they're
this
using
can
it
help
as they're self-medicating.
Don't you think it's very ironic that people who are depressed like to drink when it's
A depressant.
Yeah. I just found that.
So it could make you worse. I mean, at first you might be, one of those goofy drunks, but eventually you're going to be down,
You'll be
sad,
crying.
angry. You're not going to sleep. You're
you'll
going to feel like
lash
shit
out.
the next day.
Or you might wind up in jail.
Yeah.
Or on one of those YouTube videos that I watch. Don't let me see you on that, I swear. I will call you out so bad.
And then, I know it's not nutrition, but things like smoking and vaping too, because, a lot of people are like, oh, I smoke to relieve stress. You're not really relieving stress. You're feeding the addiction. You're stressed about other stuff, but the fact that you're having a nicotine fit at the moment will make all your stress and depression worse. So then when you take that first drag off that cigarette and you get that hit of nicotine, you feel better. But it's not that you feel better because it relieves stress. You feel better because now you're not craving nicotine anymore.
But it's also been proven, it's also been shown that people who are very stressed out and they're like, I need a cigarette. The reason why they feel better is not the cigarette. It is the deep breaths they're taking because they're like,
Some oxygen's getting in
they're
there.
like taking deep breaths each time so that when you take away the cigarette, you're still breathing heavy and you're getting oxygen. So you could calm down the same way by taking 8 deep breaths without the cigarette.
And you would
you'll
get
calm down the
more
same way.
oxygen.
Yeah.
You'd calm down a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And you know what? Save some money
And
too.
it's healthier because then you don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a smoker.
Yeah. So, smoking
You know how
could
much cigarettes
be-
are nowadays? Holy
don't know.
crap!
cigarettes, and smoking could also contribute to mental health decline, depression, and things like that because you're not getting proper oxygen and you're in this cycle of addiction, just like with the alcohol and the sugar.
It is hard to break the cycle because you're like, I'm tired, so I eat sugar because then it gives me energy, but then I get tired, but then I eat more sugar,
Yeah.
but then I'm getting fat.
But it is
then I'm
possible.
gaining weight.
It is possible. One thing that I eat sugar, it's like around the holidays or whatever. One thing that helped me, if I'm eating Christmas cookies or something, and I know, all right, I know I'm going to crave sugar the next day. It's a drug.
Yep.
I try to have fruit on hand, or maybe a healthier kind of sweet
Fructose.
to kind of deal with that, because I don't want to get back in that cycle. Another thing that affects mental health is inflammation. And so, yes, sugar, alcohol, cigarettes, and things like that can cause inflammation in your body, but some other things can too. And if you're not sure what that is, so when you get an injury, you can have localized inflammation. So it might be red, warm to the touch, swollen, things like that. Chronic inflammation in the body, if you can basically imagine you're on fire. Everything is hot and on fire and inflamed, and that's going to cause pain. It's going to cause mental problems. I could do a whole show just on inflammation. So the things we mentioned cause inflammation, but also things like just poor diet in general. Even if you're cooking at home, but you're eating loads and loads of red meat and hardly any vegetables. If you're eating bad fats, just
Stuff with
chemicals,
food dyes in it, bad food dyes.
Yeah. All of that can cause inflammation, and specifically in the brain, which can contribute to mental illness and cognitive decline. Speaking of hardly eating any vegetables, nutrient deficiencies can cause depression.
I thought you were going to say, take it away, Will, like that, because I don't eat a lot of vegetables.
Oh, you don't eat as many as I do, but I eat more than
Speaking of not eating
Yeah.
vegetables, take it away, Will.
you eat more than the average
Thanks,
person.
Bob.
Omegas, essential fatty acids. I don't know if you remember, but there was a thing in the 80s where everybody went fat-free. Fat was bad. And they came out with these fat substitutes that made people sick, and people weren't eating fat. It was kind of like
Olestra.
the
It made
cult
people
that is keto
puke
now,
and poop
but
on
instead of
themselves.
carbs, it was all about fat. And they didn't distinguish between the kinds of fat either. It was like, don't eat this really fatty steak, but don't eat this salmon or these walnuts either. And no olive oil, nothing.
Avocados didn't exist back in the 80s. Nobody knew what avocado was.
No, they knew what avocados were. They didn't eat avocado toast. That's a relatively new thing.
I did not see an avocado until 2008.
They would not have eaten avocados because they have
That's
fat.
what that was my point.
Yeah.
You cannot find an avocado in the 80s.
But listen, though, not only, and their thinking was fat causes high cholesterol and heart disease.
They said it out loud. They said fat will make you fat. Fat causes
Yeah.
heart disease.
Yeah.
Fat causes high cholesterol.
Yeah.
They're liars.
And they came out with these things called trans fats.
liars.
Which was a 30-year experiment that did not go well, because trans fats are banned now. But
a long time.
But they were like, have margarine instead of butter, and have this fat substitute instead of this, and let's
They still sell
eat
margarine.
Crisco instead of and yeah, I know, but
Margarine tastes like
it can't
crap.
be trans fats now. It's usually just plant oils but so not only did rates of heart disease not get any better.
They got worse.
Because people were eating they were eating more sugar. And so their triglycerides went up, which still causes heart disease. But my point is, not only did heart disease not get better, antidepressant use skyrocketed because people weren't getting fats in their brain that you need for proper brain function.
Depression went up. Anxiety went up.
Yeah, all that went up because you need fat to function. Your brain is mostly fat. And the whole thing about fat makes you fat is bull. You can't lose weight
crap.
without eating fat.
Yeah.
So
You don't believe that.
having a deficiency of essential fatty acids is guaranteed to cause you mental problems.
Your brain needs it. Listen to the word. Essential.
Essential, yeah. Well, the reason they call them essential is because you can't make them yourself. You have to get them from food, but
it means you need them.
You need them, yeah. And then there's other there's other nutrient deficiencies like magnesium. That could cause some mental issues because our soil used to be very rich in magnesium. It's not so much anymore, so we don't really get it from food like we used to. So some people need to supplement. It could be vitamin D, which is actually a hormone, not a vitamin.
That's true.
And we make it from the sun, but even if you think there's plenty of sunshine,
Depending on where you live.
it has to do with latitude. So if you are above a certain latitude, I apologize, I don't remember the number, but you can look it up online.
I think it's 71.
You get that seasonal affective disorder. You can even get it in the summer. If you're a vitamin D deficient, you could be depressed. You could have cognitive decline as you get older.
You should be
So-
like that really tan lady that you see. That really one that's really, really orangey tan.
Looks like a leather purse. So don't do that. I mean, maybe you don't need sunscreen just going from the house to the car. If you don't have family history of skin cancer or, anything like that, if you're going to be out all day long, yeah, you probably want to wear some. But, you can take a supplement. There's various nutrients. I named a big 3, but there's various nutrients that if you're deficient in them, you're probably going to be depressed.
Yep.
Food intolerances is another one. I know I personally, well, I don't think my intolerances make me depressed, but I am concerned about if I was to keep eating like gluten and dairy that it would affect my brain as I get older. But when you eat gluten, see, for me, I get like arthritis.
Okay.
You get moody.
I don't get that anymore.
If you kept eating it, you would.
If I keep on like for a week.
You can cheat every now and then.
2 weeks, something like this. But
It like builds up
years
in you.
ago, like in 2006 or 2007, whatever, I worked at this place where I was talking to one of my coworkers about this gluten thing that everybody was getting into, and we were all beginning to learn about it and everything. And he went out for lunch and he had pasta. And when he came back, his face was red, and he was like, "Man, my mood. I just feel a little agitated." And I was like, "Man, your whole face is red." And he was like, "I guess there is really something to this gluten thing," because he had a huge plate of spaghetti. And he said it just changed his mood. Like 20 minutes later,
Yeah.
he wasn't too angry, nothing, but he was a little agitated, he said, and he didn't want to be around people until, the food got, through his whole system, but his face was flushed and everything. And I was like, yeah. So, I could see the proof right there.
And it's not
It
going to
changed
be
his
the
mood.
same food and the same reactions
No.
for everyone. But the gluten and dairy and soy are the big ones.
Yeah.
As well as, preservatives and stuff. But, I've seen people intolerant to cucumbers before.
Yeah.
Or nightshades or something.
Right.
The point is looking at, is there a food I'm eating that's causing my moodiness? Keeping a food diary, maybe, working with a nutritionist
That's
and
a
doing an
good
elimination diet. If you are having depression or if you're older and you're kind of worried about dementia or whatever, looking at, could it be something I'm eating?
Yeah.
That is,
Take a look at what you're
it
eating.
very well could be not necessarily, okay, well, I'm not eating junk. I eat really healthy, but there could be a food or an ingredient that just doesn't agree with you.
Right.
And causes some depression. And then gut health, the gut-brain connection. The gut is like the boss of everything. People think it's the brain, but it's really the gut.
Balls.
And the two work together. I mean, think about it. If you are stressed, if you're stressed, you might start to have gastrointestinal issues.
I do.
Yeah. And it goes the opposite way. If you are having gastrointestinal issues, you're probably not a nice person to be around, or you might be
No.
in a bad mood.
Of course
So
not.
the two work together. And one thing is that you make serotonin. We know that's a brain chemical that is deficient in people sometimes if they're depressed. You make it in your gut. And you need carbs to make it.
You need a healthy gut too. to
I'm
make
not
it.
saying to go out and eat, those whole 6 to 11 servings of grains they used to tell us. You
Right.
don't need that many. But to
You do
go
need
on
some
a
healthy carbs in your
you
diet.
need healthy carbs in your diet. And,
Carbs are good for you.
again, keto may work for some people. I don't think it's a blanket thing for everybody. I don't like fad diets, but I have met people. You also need serotonin to sleep. And I have met people on keto diets that, their weight might be changing, but they're depressed and they don't sleep
Yep.
because they don't have enough serotonin. And that actually happened to you. You weren't doing keto, but you were kind of watching your carbs and you maybe watched them a little too
Yeah,
good.
I went a little too low on the carbs.
Yeah.
And started to change my mood a little bit. And I realized me, and again, this is everybody's an individual. I realized I do better when I have a normal amount of carbs, maybe even a little bit more, into my diet as far as with my exercise and weight training, and even in, believe it or not, burning fat.
Yeah.
If I eat the right amount of carbs, I will burn more fat than if I'm trying to starve myself and I'm not eating that many carbs.
Yeah. And whatever is the right amount for you is obviously going to be different than what's the right amount for somebody
Everybody's
else.
an individual.
But you work to find that balance.
You have to.
But you do need some.
Yeah.
And then some other things with the gut is like your gut bacteria. You know, if you don't have all the little friendly guys down there, the good
Doing their
bacteria
job.
doing their job,
Breaking stuff down.
then you're going to also have problems. So ways you can fix that would be, you know, take probiotics, eat fermented foods. If you have to take antibiotics, you have to make sure that you're putting back the good guys because the antibiotics kill all of them, the bad and the good.
Yeah.
So paying attention to things like that. If you do have gut issues that you cannot resolve on your own, work with a nutritionist, work with a doctor, you know, see if you could have something like Crohn's disease, IBS, you know, and then
Right.
figuring out how to fix that. That's going to help with your brain.
Yeah.
Hydration is another one. Your
Yep.
brain cannot work properly if you're drinking soda all day
Yep.
and you never pick up water.
Yep.
And then the psychology of food, believe it or not. Food is very personal. A lot of times it's sentimental. You know, we all have foods from our childhood that meant family or celebration that we like to eat.
Yep.
We often use food when we're celebrating something, even when we're older.
Yep.
So being so worried about every calorie or fat gram that goes into your mouth, obsessing over the scale, you know, beating yourself up if I shouldn't have had that, you know, piece of cake at work or whatever, that can cause depression too, because you're so worried and obsessed and stressed out.
Yeah.
So even though I'm telling you all these nutritional changes, you know, to improve your life, don't be so, you know, stressed out about it. Just
Right.
do what you can and
Unless
make
you're
changes
in-
slowly at your own pace.
Unless you're in some kind of competition, seriously, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You really.
Like I said, 80-20. 80% of the time do really well, 20% of the time don't freaking
Right,
worry about
yeah.
it.
If you're getting ready to compete, yeah, I can understand. But
Yeah. And then, you know, of course, we could go on and on and on about nutrition and mental health, but that's probably what I think are the most important things that you can do nutrition-wise
Good.
for both keeping your brain sharp as you get older and for helping with depression. I think nutrition is probably one of the biggest tools in the toolbox. But another very important tool is movement.
Yeah, and I think depression and anxiety are the two of the biggest things that people suffer from. That not that they suffer from, but the thing that keeps people from advancing in life and doing what they want in life and having a good life. I think those two are the worst: depression and the anxiety. So mine is pretty simple. Not to say that yours is too complicated to understand, but the human body was made to move. It was not made to sit in one spot all day long and not do anything.
That's right.
It's just, you can look at it. If you examine the body and just look at it, the way it's built, it's made to move. So it's pretty simple. You have to move every day. You do. I'm not saying you have to go to the gym every day, because like we had with the snow the other day, Colorado, you can't go to the gym.
That's why you have to have plan B. Or call it rest day.
So, there's a lot of studies out there now that I see that people are becoming even more sedentary than they were before, more introverted, and more lonely. And all that's doing is
Loneliness is bad for the brain
it's
too.
leading to poor eating habits and poor lifestyle, which means they're not moving. So things are just getting worse right now as we speak. So that's why we want to do this, because we want to catch it before. I mean, this could become an epidemic if it hits a large portion of our population. So there's a growing body of literature that recognizes the positive effects of exercise on depression, anxiety, and the future, the cognitive stuff for in the future, better than doing crossword puzzles. Those are great. Don't ever
Yeah,
stop
you
doing
still
those.
have to do them,
Those are great.
but it's a tool
But-
in the toolbox.
Exercising, lifting weights has shown to stave off Alzheimer's longer than people who did not exercise. So, what happens when we exercise? What's the deal? How come we feel better? Well, we get those good hormones. They start flowing out of the brain.
Getting
because you're
endorphins.
moving,
and-
yeah. Another thing is
The runner's high thing, that's
Yeah.
a real thing.
your body temperature goes up, which
So I think that's it for us today. And follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our website, send us questions and topics you want to learn about.
There's going to be new videos coming to Instagram. I'm going to start posting reels.
We have a YouTube channel that we'll be
and
posting some things
YouTube.
on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Instructional stuff and just happy stuff,
Yeah.
positive stuff.
Yeah. I've got a couple of meditation videos
Yeah.
on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
You could do some deep breathing and get some of those benefits that laughter brings just
For
from the
sure.
deep breathing. If you're in the Colorado Springs area and would like us to help you in person, shoot us an email at contactus@chronologyfit.com or message us on Facebook. We can also help you virtually with some of our services.
Yes.
You can check out other great podcasts by visiting studio809radio.com. We hope you have a healthy, playful, and laughterful week. And tune in next time to the Functional Fitness and Nutrition Podcast with Chronology.